Annabelle Neilson was found 8 years after her death began. The city called it natural causes. Her friends called it unfinished mourning. On her nightstand, a torn photograph. McQueen's Muse mid-collapse, mascara bleeding into silk like ink into memory. She didn't die of heartbreak. She died of loyalty. An illness fashion never learned to diagnose. July 12, 2018, Chelsea, London. A flat where silence had been living for months. They find her in bed. Peaceful, the coroner will say, as if she'd simply gone to sleep and decided not to return. 49 years old, no signs of violence, no obvious overdose, just a body that stopped. The official report, heart failure, natural causes. The kind of bureaucratic language that erases everything interesting about a death. But on the nightstand, evidence of another story. A photograph from 1995. Alexander McQueen's Highland Rape collection. Annabelle walking a runway in torn lace, mascara running, looking like beautiful devastation. Someone, her, has written underneath, "He made me beautiful. I made him believe." The photograph is from 23 years ago. But it's the last thing she looked at. As if she needed to remember who she was, or who she'd been. Or who she'd become when Lee McIntosh decided she was worth translating into fashion. Her friends know the truth immediately. She didn't die on July 12, 2018. She died on February 11, 2010, the day McQueen hanged himself. The 8 years between were just her body catching up with what her soul had already done. But here's what the fashion obituaries won't say. Annabelle Neilson didn't fade because she was weak. She faded because loyalty, when given completely, becomes a form of self-erasure. Because being someone's mirror means disappearing into their reflection. Because muses aren't collaborators, they're fuel. "I was never famous," she once said. "I was just near famous people." But she was something rarer than famous. She was necessary. And when you're necessary to genius, you become inseparable from it. And when genius kills itself, where does that leave you? Every crown in London shines brightest before it draws blood. To understand how a girl from aristocratic London became fashion's most haunting ghost, we must go back. Back to before McQueen. Back to before beauty became both armor and wound. Back to when she was still just Annabelle, learning that some escapes are just slower ways to disappear. Back to the girl who chose art over survival. London, March 31, 1969. Privilege without warmth. Annabelle Neilson is born into English aristocracy. Old money. Society connections. The kind of family where everything is correct and nothing is warm. Her parents aren't cruel, just absent in the particular way wealthy British families have perfected over centuries. The Neilson family traces lineage back generations. There are properties, investments, a certain standing in society that must be maintained. Reputation matters more than happiness. Appearance matters more than authenticity. She grows up in Knightsbridge, one of London's most expensive neighborhoods. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where gossip travels faster than truth, where one's worth is measured in invitations to the right events. Her childhood is comfortable but cold. Nannies raise her more than parents. She attends schools where surnames carry more weight than personality, learns to curtsy before she learns to question, discovers early that her value lies in how she looks, how she behaves, who she might marry. Every expectation is clear. Every path is predetermined. She will marry well, someone from a similar family, similar background. Join the right committees, host the right parties, perpetuate the bloodline and the bank accounts. Her life is mapped before she's old enough to read the map, but Annabelle is wrong for this life from the beginning. Too sensitive, too curious, too prone to asking why when the answer is always, because that's how it's done. She reads poetry when she should be studying etiquette. Spends hours alone when she should be socializing. Shows interest in art and fashion and things her family considers frivolous. They tolerate it because she's young. assume she'll grow out of it. Become proper. By 15, she's beautiful in the way that makes adults nervous. Not pretty, beautiful. The kind that photographs like a pre-Raphaelite painting. High cheekbones, porcelain skin, eyes that seem to know something they shouldn't, hair that catches light like it's been painted. Her mother sees her beauty as asset, something to be managed and deployed strategically. Already planning which families to introduce her to, which events will showcase her best. But Annabelle sees her beauty as cage. Every compliment feels like chains. Every admiring look feels like being cataloged for auction. She starts rebelling in small ways, wearing black instead of pastels, listening to punk music in her room, sneaking out to clubs she's too young to enter, finding London's underground, the artists, the misfits, the people who've rejected the same society that's rejecting them. At 16, she breaks, doesn't announce it dramatically, just leaves. Drops out of school midterm, packs a bag, moves out. The family is mortified but too proper to make a scene. They tell friends she's finding herself in that tone that means they've washed their hands of her. She falls into London's underground scene properly now. The clubs where artists and addicts blur together. Squats in Shoreditch before it's gentrified. Warehouse parties that don't end until noon. People who choose danger over comfort because comfort feels like death. It's the mid-1980s. Punk is evolving into something darker and more nihilistic. Heroin is everywhere, cheap, available, offering exactly the escape she craves. Everyone she knows is trying it. Some for art, some for oblivion, most for both. She tries it, tells herself it's just once, just to see. Just to understand what everyone's talking about. Once becomes twice becomes need. By 17, she's an addict, not recreational, fully dependent, the kind that reorganizes your entire life around the next fix, the kind that steals years and selves. Her family finds out, tries intervention, offers rehab. But Annabelle refuses, sees their concern as another form of control. She's not going back to that life, even if this life is killing her. Exile became detox, pain became passport. Annabelle is 17, skeletal, desperate. A friend suggests Australia. Fresh start, far from London's scene, far from connections, far from the dealers she knows and the life that's consuming her. She goes to Sydney, stays with people she barely knows. Friends of friends, the kind of loose connections the underground provides. She's trying to get clean, trying to outrun herself, trying to be someone new. For a few weeks it works. She's away from familiar triggers. The physical withdrawal is hell, fever, shakes, sickness, but she endures. Starts to believe maybe she can do this. Maybe she can reset. One night she's out with new friends. A bar in King's Cross, Sydney's red light district. She's laughing, almost feeling normal when she notices men watching her. Something about their attention feels wrong. Predatory. She tries to leave. They follow. What happens next, she never discusses publicly. The details remain hers. What's known from police reports and hospital records, she's attacked. Violently. Multiple assailants. She's beaten. Worse, left for dead in an alley. She survives. Barely. Spends days in hospital. The physical injuries heal eventually. But something else breaks that never repairs. Post-traumatic stress disorder embeds itself in her nervous system like shrapnel. Panic attacks that arrive without warning. Night terrors that make sleep dangerous. Hypervigilance that makes safety feel like fantasy. She returns to England different. Harder externally, more fragile internally. More determined to live even though living hurts. More certain that the world is dangerous and beauty makes you a target. Her veins learned rhythm before her heart learned rest. Back in London, she tries again to get clean. This time it sticks, mostly. The heroin stops, but other things replace it. Alcohol becomes daily necessity. Prescription medications, benzodiazepines for anxiety, sleeping pills for the nightmares, painkillers for phantom pains. Anything to quiet the memories that won't stop replaying. But she also discovers something. Beauty can be armor. If you're beautiful enough, people don't look past the surface. Don't ask uncomfortable questions. They see the face and assume everything underneath matches. She starts modeling. Not with ambition, more like drift. A photographer sees her at a club, asks to shoot her. The photos are striking. She has something beyond conventional beauty. A quality cameras recognize even if words can't describe it. Damage, maybe. Or knowledge. Or the look of someone who's survived something they'll never discuss. She photographs like a Renaissance painting, beautiful but haunted. Present but elsewhere. She gets more work, editorial shoots, magazine covers, nothing huge. She's too inconsistent, too willing to cancel, too obviously unreliable. But enough. Enough to pay rent. Enough to be in the scene. She meets other models, other artists, people in various stages of beautiful destruction. London in the early 1990s is fertile ground for anyone who wants to turn damage into aesthetic. She meets Kate Moss at a shoot in 1992. Kate is 18, already famous, already dealing with pressures Annabelle recognizes. They become friends immediately, the kind of friendship built on mutual understanding of how beauty can be both gift and curse. They party together, club together, get photographed together. Two beautiful women behaving badly, which tabloids find endlessly fascinating. But beneath the headlines, they're survivors using each other as mirrors. Proof that you can be broken and still be standing. Early 1990s. London's fashion underground is exploding with talent. Young designers rejecting the polish of the 1980s, making clothes that confront rather than flatter. That question rather than celebrate. And then there's this guy, Lee, Alexander McQueen, from East London, working class. No formal training beyond apprenticeships, making clothes that look like they're at war with the body. Annabelle meets him through mutual friends in the scene, a party in Hoxton, or a club in Shoreditch. The story varies depending who tells it. What matters is the recognition, immediate, electric. Two people who've been broken in different ways recognizing the same fracture pattern in each other. They talk all night, about art, about damage, about whether beauty requires suffering or just attracts it. He shows her sketches, violent, beautiful designs that look like they're bleeding on the page. She tells him stories, carefully edited but honest enough that he sees the scars underneath. Lee called me his twin soul, she'll later say. We didn't sleep together, we dreamt together. It becomes the most important relationship of her life. Not romantic. Deeper than that. Something fashion doesn't have vocabulary for, soulmates but darker. Two people who understand each other's damage so completely that words become optional. He stitched rage into lace. She wore it like forgiveness. McQueen is creating fashion that's revolutionary. Not just different, actively confrontational. His graduate collection from Central St. Martin's features a jacket with McQueen written across the lining in his own hair, literally stitching himself into his work. Critics call it brilliant or disturbing depending on their tolerance for provocation. He starts showing independently. Small venues, warehouse spaces, shows that feel more like art installations than fashion presentations. Models walk through water, through broken glass, through scenarios that make audiences uncomfortable. He needs a muse who understands what he's doing, who embodies it, who can wear confrontational beauty without flinching. Annabelle becomes that muse. Not because she's trying to be, because she already is. She embodies what he's trying to express. Beauty that's been through trauma, elegance that knows violence, survival that looks like couture. The first crack opened in a girl who learned beauty could be both weapon and wound. 1993-1994. McQueen's early collections establish his reputation. taxi driver, nihilism, banshee, collections with names that sound like warnings, fashion that makes people gasp, sometimes in admiration, sometimes in horror. Annabelle appears in several shows, not as professional model, as muse, as embodiment of what he's exploring. She understands his vision instinctively because she's lived it, knows what it feels like to be both beautiful and dangerous, both desired and damaged. They spend hours together, in his studio in Hoxton, cramped, chaotic, overflowing with fabric and sketches and half-finished designs, in her flat in Notting Hill, equally chaotic, equally creative, talking, smoking, drinking, creating. He shows her sketches. She tells him stories. He makes clothes that look like her interior life made external. She wears them like their armor and confession simultaneously. Their friends don't fully understand the relationship. It's not sexual, not quite professional, not even fully friendship. It's something else, something fashion doesn't have language for. Kate Moss, watching them together, will later say, "They didn't need to speak, they just knew, like they were reading each other's minds or sharing the same nightmares." Highland Rape, the collection that will define both their legacies. McQueen is making a statement about English oppression of Scotland, about colonization, about violence disguised as civilization, about how history gets written by oppressors while victims get reduced to footnotes. The name itself is provocative, deliberately, aggressively so. The clothes are torn, slashed. Models walk looking assaulted, hair disheveled, makeup smudged, looking like survivors of something terrible. Critics are divided. Some call it genius, others accuse him of glorifying violence against women. Feminist groups protest. The fashion establishment is scandalized. But Annabelle understands what he's actually doing. He's not victimizing women. He's showing that survival can be powerful. That being torn doesn't mean being destroyed. That you can walk through devastation and come out looking like a warrior. She wasn't modeling the wound, she was reenacting survival. She walks the runway in ripped lace, tartan torn strategically, bumps her pants exposing vulnerable flesh. Mascara deliberately smudged to look like tears or rage or both. Hair deliberately disheveled, looking like she's been through battle and won. The photographs from that show become iconic. Annabelle mid-stride, looking directly at the camera with expression that's both vulnerable and defiant. Beautiful and dangerous. Victim and survivor simultaneously. It's the image she'll keep on her nightstand 23 years later. The last thing she'll look at before she stops looking at anything. Another crack appeared, between the muse who survived and the artist who wouldn't. 1995-2000. McQueen ascends. His shows become events. His clothes get worn by celebrities. Isabella Blow, his patron and champion, promotes him relentlessly. He wins British Designer of the Year, then again, then again, then again. The fashion world recognizes him as generational talent. Comparisons to Galliano, to Vivienne Westwood, to designers who change fashion's grammar. He's still making provocative work, but increasingly within the establishment rather than against it. Annabelle watches the transformation with complex feelings. She's proud. Lee deserves every success. But she also sees what's being lost. The underground is becoming mainstream. The art is becoming business. The revolution is being packaged and sold back as luxury goods. She's still his primary muse. Still the first person who sees new work. Still the one who tells him truth when everyone else just flatters. But the dynamic is shifting. He's becoming Alexander McQueen. Brand, business, global phenomenon. And she's still just Annabelle. Beautiful, damaged, necessary, but not famous. She continues modeling occasionally. More editorial than runway. She photographs beautifully. Every photographer wants to shoot her. But she's unreliable. Cancels shoots. Shows up hours late or not at all. Clearly using fashion as therapy rather than career. She's photographed constantly with Kate Moss. Two beautiful women always together, always at the right parties, always looking slightly dangerous. Tabloids love them, call them party girls. Wild things, bad influences on each other. The truth is more complicated. They're survivors using fashion as language, creating space where damage doesn't need to be hidden or explained, where you can be beautiful and broken simultaneously. She becomes friends with other models. Naomi Campbell, who calls her the scariest and most real model in London. With photographers, Rankin shoots her repeatedly, always trying to capture whatever quality makes her so magnetic. With designers, everyone wants to work with McQueen's Muse, but she's not really part of the fashion world. She's adjacent to it, near it, necessary to it, but always slightly outside, always watching from half-step removed. The closer fashion came to loving her, the less of herself remained to love. Massive shift. McQueen is appointed head designer at Givenchy. It's triumph. Validation. A working-class boy from East London leading one of French fashion's most prestigious houses. But it's also transformation. He's not just Lee anymore. He's Alexander McQueen, creative director, employee of LVMH luxury conglomerate. The pressure is immense. He's expected to produce collections on schedule, make clothes that sell, satisfy corporate masters, be genius on demand. Annabelle sees him struggling. The artist is becoming employee. The revolution is being administered by HR departments. He's drinking more, using more. The success everyone wanted is destroying him. They talk about it late at night. He's in Paris more than London now. When they're together, he's different. More stressed, more medicated, more aware of the machine he's feeding. They want me to be genius on their timeline, he tells her. But genius doesn't work like that. You can't schedule inspiration, you can't mandate vision. She understands. She's been fuel for other people's visions her whole life, knows what it costs. The 2000s blur together for both of them. McQueen creates masterpiece after masterpiece, collections that push fashion into art, models walking on water. Hologram Kate Moss floating ethereally, designs that make audiences gasp, but he's suffering. Depression that no success can cure. Drug use that's gone from recreational to necessary. Relationships that don't last because he's married to his work. The weight of being Alexander McQueen is crushing Lee McIntosh. Annabelle is suffering too, still fighting demons from Australia, still self-medicating. Still beautiful but increasingly fragile. People who see her at events notice she seems elsewhere, present in body but absent in essence. Like she's performing being Annabelle rather than being her. She tries to reinvent herself, takes small acting roles, nothing serious, just curiosity. Writes, discovers she has talent with words. Starts writing children's books, the Me series about cartoon characters learning life lessons. The books are charming, unexpected. Critics and parents are surprised. This woman who's synonymous with fashion's dark side writing wholesome stories for kids. Good children don't judge broken people, she explains when asked. They just accept. They don't care about your past. They care about the story you're telling now. The books are modest successes. Proof she's more than just McQueen's muse. More than just beautiful wreckage. But also escape. Creating worlds where trauma doesn't exist. Where problems get solved in 20 pages. Where everyone learns and grows and is okay. She appears on Ladies of London reality show about wealthy British women. She's by far the most interesting person on screen. Funny, sharp, self-aware. Doesn't take herself too seriously. Doesn't perform affluence the way the other women do. But there's sadness underneath everything. She seems to be playing at being Annabelle Neilson rather than being her. Going through motions, hitting marks, delivering lines. She smiled like someone rehearsing being alive. Kate Moss watches an episode, texts her. You look like you're haunting your own life. Annabelle doesn't respond, because Kate is right. By 2009, McQueen is barely functioning. His mother, Joyce, the woman who encouraged his art, who supported him unconditionally, is dying. Cancer. He's devastated. She's been his anchor. His reason for continuing when the pressure gets unbearable. Joyce dies on February 2nd, 2010. McQueen is destroyed, friends worry, he's always struggled with depression, but this is different. Darker, more final. Annabelle tries to be there for him. Calls, texts, tries to visit, but he's unreachable. Closed off even to his twin soul. February 11th, 2010, the day the mirror broke. Alexander McQueen is found hanged in his Mayfair flat. Suicide, dead at 40, 9 days after his mother's funeral. He leaves a note. Look after my dogs. Sorry, I love you. Lee. The fashion world erupts. Shock, grief, disbelief. Tributes pour in from everyone. Celebrities, designers, models. Everyone has a story about his genius, his kindness, his vision. But Annabelle doesn't give interviews, doesn't make statements. Can't process it. The person who knew her best, who understood her without explanation, who gave her language for survival. Gone. She goes to his flat when police allow it. Stands in the room where his body was found. Looks at the space where he hanged himself, tries to understand. Can't. She's shaking, can't breathe. Finally screams, "He didn't leave me a note, I was his note." The world called it suicide, she called it invitation. People don't understand what she means, but it's true. She was his message, his proof that beauty and damage could coexist, his evidence that survival was art. And now he's gone, and she's still here. And nothing makes sense. The funeral is February 25th, 2010. Private, family and close friends only. Held at St. Paul's Church in Knightsbridge. Ironic location given McQueen's working-class roots and anti-establishment stance. Annabelle attends. Wears one of his designs, black, elegant, perfect. Her face is devastated. Makeup can't hide the grief. She doesn't cry, just looks hollow. Like someone who's had their soul removed and is trying to figure out how to function without it. After the funeral, she disappears. Not physically, she's still in London, still in her Chelsea flat, but essentially, she stops modeling entirely, stops attending events, stops being the Annabelle people expect. She retreats, sees only closest friends, Kate, Naomi. People who understand grief doesn't have timeline or expiration date. Grief became her couture. She wore it daily, impeccably. In her flat, she keeps his clothes, wears them even though they're museum pieces worth thousands. Sleeps in his t-shirts, wraps herself in his designs like they're him. She writes in her diary, "I miss Lee every day. I keep a dress he made for me. It smells like him in death. Friends worry. Suggest therapy, grief counseling, anything." She goes through motions, but nothing touches the core wound. McQueen isn't just dead. He's taken part of her with him, the part that knew who she was, the part that made survival feel possible. She drinks more. Wine at lunch, wine at dinner, wine at midnight. Elegant alcoholism, never falling down drunk, just constant maintenance dosing to keep pain manageable. Prescription medications multiply. Anxiety, sleep, pain. Everything except the actual problem. She's mourning someone who's been dead for months, then years, and the grief isn't fading, it's calcifying. In her phone, she starts drafting messages to McQueen. Never sends them, can't, obviously, but writes them anyway, updates him on fashion, on mutual friends, on her life such as it is. Your retrospective opened today. You would have hated all the attention, or maybe loved it. I can never tell with you. Kate says hello. She misses you too, we all do, but I think I miss you differently. I'm on my way to your show. Dated June 2018. He's been dead 8 years when she writes it. The Victoria and Albert Museum in London hosts Savage Beauty. Major retrospective of McQueen's work. It's massive, record-breaking attendance. People queue for hours. McQueen's genius is finally getting institutional recognition he deserved while alive. Annabelle attends opening night, walks through galleries seeing dresses she inspired, designs she wore, collections she helped birth, but feels like she's viewing her own autopsy. This is her life, behind glass, under lights, labeled and explained by people who weren't there. The Highland Rape dress is there. displayed prominently, explained in curatorial text about colonization and trauma and McQueen's political vision. She stands in front of it for a long time, remembers wearing it, remembers Lee adjusting the tiers in the fabric, remembers the feeling of walking that runway looking like beautiful destruction. A curator approaches, recognizes her, asks if she'd like to give quote for exhibition materials, something about working with McQueen, about being his muse. Annabelle looks at the woman for a long moment, then says, "You don't survive beauty, you endure it." The curator thanks her, doesn't use the quote too dark, not on brand for celebration. The next 3 years, 2015 to 2018, are slow erasure. Annabelle is still in London, still occasionally photographed at events, still beautiful in that ethereal way that makes people uncomfortable. But she's fading. Not physically, she still looks like herself, but essentially. The spark that made her magnetic is dimming. Friends describe her as not quite there, like part of her is already wherever McQueen is. She continues drinking, continues medications, continues writing messages to dead man, continues performing being alive while feeling dead inside. July 2018. She's been quiet for weeks. Friends check on her occasionally, but she says she's fine, just tired, just needs rest. July 12, 2018, London, summer heat. Annabelle Neilson doesn't wake up. The coroner will rule heart failure, natural causes, possibly drug-related but not overdose. No sign of suicide, just a body that stopped, 49 years old. Her friends know immediately what killed her. Not drugs, not heart failure, not any medical diagnosis. She died of what she'd been dying of since February 11, 2010. Being the one who stayed behind. Being the mirror that broke when its twin disappeared. Being loyal to someone who couldn't stay. Kate Moss posts photo of them together from the 1990s. Both laughing, both young, both alive. Caption: "She was a poem that forgot how to end." Naomi Campbell writes, "Sleep well, darling girl, you were too pure for this world." The fashion industry mourns. Quietly, genuinely. Because everyone who knew her understood she was special. Not famous, not a celebrity, but essential. Proof that fashion could be more than commerce. That beauty could coexist with damage. That muses were human. Or proof that some people don't survive. That being a muse is slow death. That giving yourself to someone's vision means losing yourself. That loyalty can be fatal. The funeral is private, close friends only. They dress in McQueen, obviously. It's what she would have wanted. Kate Moss delivers eulogy that makes everyone cry. Talks about the Annabelle people didn't see. The funny one, the loyal one, the one who sent care packages when you were sick, who remembered birthdays, who showed up when it mattered. She made everyone feel special, Kate says, voice breaking, and nobody ever made her feel special enough to stay. In her will, Annabelle leaves specific instructions. Her wardrobe, mostly McQueen designs, some unworn, some museum quality, donated to the V&A, to the Savage Beauty Collection, so students can see them, touch them, understand what his work meant. One dress is accepted, the Highland Rape dress. That goes to Kate, with note, for the next girl who needs armor. Her flat is sold, her belongings dispersed. Her life, 49 years of beauty and pain and art, compressed into estate paperwork and auction lots. But in the V&A and the Savage Beauty exhibit, they add small display. Photos of Annabelle in McQueen's designs. The Highland Rape dress donated from Kate's collection. A placard. Annabelle Neilson, the one who stayed. It's the only memorial she'll get. And maybe enough. To be remembered as the one who didn't run, who stayed loyal even when loyalty meant dying slowly. And the island that ignored her sermons now hums them like hymns. In years after her death, Annabelle becomes something she never was in life. Icon. Fashion students study her, write papers about Muse designer relationships, about cost of beauty, about women who give everything to men's visions. She's compared to every tragic muse in history. To Edie Sedgwick, Warhol's muse who died young. To Lee Miller, Man Ray's muse who became photographer herself. To every woman who's been fuel for male genius. But Annabelle is different. She wasn't discarded. McQueen loved her until he died. She wasn't destroyed by him, she was destroyed by losing him. Her tragedy isn't exploitation, it's devotion. She loved someone so completely that his death became hers too, just delayed. Young women in fashion programs write theses about her, about whether muses can exist without exploitation, about what it means to be someone's inspiration, about price women pay for being beautiful and necessary. The conclusions vary, but everyone agrees. Annabelle Neilson was not victim. She was choice. She chose McQueen, chose loyalty, chose to be his mirror and muse and twin soul. And when he died, she chose to follow, just slowly. Her children's books, the Me's, continue selling. Parents buy them not knowing author's story. Kids read cheerful lessons about cartoon characters. Nobody tells them the woman who wrote these wholesome tales was dying inside the whole time. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the books were Annabelle's way of creating something pure, something untouched by trauma and grief, something that could exist independent of McQueen and fashion and all the beautiful wreckage of her life. The crack is where the light gets in, but in London it's also where the ghosts escape. There's recording found on her phone after death. Audio memo dated April 2018, 3 months before she died. Her voice slightly slurred. She'd been drinking. When I die, don't say I overdosed. Say I finally rested. Say I was tired. Say I followed Lee. Say anything except that I was victim. I wasn't. I chose this. I chose him. I chose art. I chose beauty, even though beauty is fire that burns from inside. I chose all of it. And I'd choose it again because art was the only language my scars could speak. Pause. Sound of glass wine being poured. Then, McQueen was my soulmate. The world never understood what we were. We weren't lovers, we were mirrors. Proof that damaged people can create beautiful things. When he died, half the mirror broke. I've been trying to reflect light with broken glass ever since. I'm tired. So tired, but I can't stop. Because if I stop being his muse, what am I? Just another beautiful girl with trauma. At least this way, the trauma meant something. At least this way, it made art. Another pause, breathing, then quieter. I keep waiting for him to call. To tell me about new collection, to ask what I think, to make me laugh. I keep my phone on loud in case. I know he's dead. I'm not crazy. But knowing doesn't help. The waiting doesn't stop. Maybe when I die, the waiting will stop. Maybe that's what death is, the end of waiting. The recording ends there. 3 months later, she's dead. Fashion critics now cite her as example of everything wrong with industry. How it consumes women, romanticizes suffering, turns damage into aesthetic. They're not wrong, but they're not entirely right either. Because Annabelle wasn't passive. She wasn't consumed without consent. She walked into fire knowing it was fire. She chose Muse hood knowing cost. That doesn't make it okay, but makes it hers. Kate Moss, in rare interview years later, asked about Annabelle. Long silence. Then, Belle taught me there are different ways to die. Lee died suddenly. Belle died slowly. Both tragedies. But Belle's was worse because she had to be alive while being dead inside. She had to wake up every day and perform being Annabelle, even though Annabelle died in 2010. And she did it with grace. Dressed beautifully, smiled, showed up. That's courage, or maybe torture. I still don't know which. Every July 12th, Kate posts same photo. Annabelle and McQueen together laughing, arms around each other. Both alive, both happy, both before tragedy. Caption always same, still missing you both. In Chelsea, where Annabelle lived and died, there's no memorial, no plaque, no marker, just building where she spent 8 years slowly erasing herself. But sometimes locals swear they see woman in McQueen dress, walking at night, always alone, always heading somewhere with purpose. She's beautiful, pale, Looks like Ghost from 1990s when London was young and dangerous and full of promise. Nobody approaches her. She doesn't seem to want company, just walks with deliberate grace, then fades, then is gone. Maybe it's Annabelle, still looking for Lee, still trying to find show she said she was heading to. Still the Muse, still the ghost, still the one who stayed. Some flames die when the oxygen runs out. Hers died when the artist did. Annabelle Neilson was 49 when she died. Been beautiful entire life. Been muse to one of fashion's greatest geniuses. Been photographed by legends. Been loved by Kate and Naomi and everyone who understood what she represented. But what did she represent? Cost of beauty? Price of devotion? Tragedy of being necessary but not enough? Maybe simpler. What happens when you love someone so completely their absence becomes your identity? When loyalty becomes self-destruction? When being someone's reflection means disappearing? She died the way she lived, beautifully, quietly, and 8 years too late. On nightstand when they found her, photograph from Highland Rape. Her in torn dress, McQueen's vision made flesh. Underneath her handwriting, "He made me beautiful. I made him believe." She wasn't his accessory. She was his aftershock. They weren't lovers. They were matching open wounds. If devotion becomes the art, does the muse ever own her creation? And when beauty keeps killing its believers, why do we still call it divine?